Alright guys, I want to show you how to sell anything with the DEEP framework. So I'm just going to highlight this, the DEEP framework. We're going to go through it one by one so you understand it in hopefully 10 minutes. So I'm not going to spend a hell of a lot of time going through this. But this is not something that, it's not extremely groundbreaking, but I can pretty much guarantee that 99% of you business owners, if you're running a service business, coaching business, consulting business, you've probably not done this in depth because you believe in your own head. You know your customer inside out. You know the problems you solve. But this is going to help you understand it so much more. That's not only going to help you from a content perspective, a marketing perspective, advertising, and also the sales process itself. If you do offer consultancy calls, discovery calls, wherever it is, this is going to really help you understand everything about your client and everything that you do to help them solve their problem. Now, if you do not have every single one of these locked down, all 4 of them, then you're going to really struggle. You're going to be missing out on lots of opportunities. You're going to be missing out on lots of sales. Once you do get them nailed, it's just going to make your life a hell of a lot easier. And I am not a business guru. I am not a business mentor. We've just run a coaching company, successfully scaled it to over 250 plus active clients. We run a separate business, a brick and mortar business, a gym, physical location, totally different businesses. So I have a bit of knowledge from the last 10 years I've spent doing these things. But this isn't something that is like a new thing. I hate to break it to you because we're always looking for the new thing. But what it is it's a combination of things that I've learned over the time, put it together into a nice little framework so you can easily remember it. But it's what expert marketers and advertisers actually do behind the scenes, and I know this from working with these people, spending a lot of money to work with these people as well. So hopefully you can do this task very quickly for your business, for your service. If you're starting, if you're scaling, whatever you're trying to do, this is going to help you understand it a little bit more. So like I said, this is applicable in sales, on calls, it's applicable with advertising, it's applicable with content. So it is going to impact you, and it's going to be good. It's going to be nice for you to take a step back sometimes, because we're guilty of not doing this enough, and actually analyzing your business, looking at it through a different lens, which is what this framework is going to apply, and it's going to do for you. So first of all, let me walk you through the first one, okay? So we've got here, we're going to put define. It's really hard to actually talk with this. So I'm going to put define, and I'm going to say surface level. I can't even reach there. I don't know if you can actually see that as well. Level. Yeah, you can easily. So we put a little smiley face. So define the surface level problems. Okay. Problems. So when we're talking about surface level problems, what I mean here is the problems that your customers or your clients first think they have. They are not totally aware of the true causes of their problems most of the time. This is very important when it comes down to marketing and content advertising, because sometimes you can be speaking to them at a much deeper level than where they're already at. So for the majority of people, they're very surface level with the problems that they think they have. I'll give you a great example for fitness coaches out there. You'll be able to understand this straight away. You probably won't even need to do this task, because I'm just going to use an example like that every single time. So from what we would get in the DMs, just to give you an example, people would reach out. They'd say, if we go back 10 years, all they knew existed. They didn't really know coaching existed, or online coaching wasn't really a big thing. So they would say, I need a diet plan. They would say, I need a training plan. They would say, do you offer in-person sessions, one-to-one PT? That was the thing, right? That was the only options that they were aware of. What were they really trying to fix? If we dig a little bit deeper, the actual problems, right? They weren't in shape. They didn't have the amount of muscle mass they wanted. And we'll get into the emotional stuff later. But that was the actual problems. But they would say what they thought the solutions was, and they would ask us as the expert for that. Okay, so that's the surface level problems. So if we talk about like training plan, I'll just put plan. And then we've also got one-to-one PT sessions, okay? So with these two things here, for me, all I see, right, is they want structure. So they don't have no structure, and also accountability. That's why they need the in-person person to push them. So structure and accountability, right? Those are the actual deeper problems. If we go beneath the surface on what problems they think they have, they're really telling you that they don't have motivation, they don't have structure, they don't know, they're second guessing all the information they've got, because every single fitness advert over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years has been telling them different things. The new fad diet, the new thing to follow, the new training plan, the new home training plan, go to the gym, don't go to the gym, lift weights, don't lift weights. So they have no idea where to turn. So information they need a clear plan, they need structure, they need accountability, they need motivation for the 23 hours outside of the one-to-one PT session as well. So those things don't actually solve the problem. If they did, then everyone would already be in shape, right? So those are not the clear problems. So that's when we need to go a little bit deeper, okay? So this is where we actually go to emotion. So you need to be thinking about this for your product as well, right? So this is, obviously I'm giving examples specifically for fitness coaches. But when we talk about emotions, what are they actually feeling right now as they go through these things? So the biggest thing of all is a lack of confidence. I'm really terrible at writing of confidence. Okay, we'll put that there. So lack of confidence is one of the things. When we're talking about other things, I'll just give you some examples. They might say that they don't feel comfortable taking their top off. They don't feel comfortable naked in front of their partner. There's loads of things. They don't feel comfortable in clothes when they're walking into rooms. They definitely don't feel like they look the way they want to. They're not owning the rooms when they're walking into it. They're not showing off that confidence. So they feel embarrassed. There's also then when they look back, and they think about all the times they've said they're going to commit to things, they feel defeated, they feel like they don't stick to their word. All of these are emotions that they feel about themselves, and ultimately it impacts other areas of their life, not just in terms of the physical and how healthy their body is, but their ability to back themselves when it comes down to their career, the confidence they have with other things. Are they actually going to stick to it? Are they going to be consistent? All of those things are emotional feelings that they have. They probably feel guilty. Like there's so many things that they're feeling. These are now deeper emotional levels that we can reach people on and relate to them with our content, with our advertising, with our marketing. Even in calls, you now are starting to understand the exact emotions your customers are feeling right now before they take that next step to work with you. So if we go a little bit deeper again, we come to the second E, which is the effects, right? So do this here. So what are the actual effects? And this is now where we've basically gone from the definition of the surface level problems, we've gone emotional, and now we're going back logical with the actions. So I'm going to put here actions. Okay? So when I'm talking about the effects, the actions, what do I actually mean by this? How is the decisions, their actions, their physical actions, how are they different because of the way they feel, because of the problems they face? So with a potential client of fitness in the coaching world, their effects are going to be along the lines of they don't show up to events, they don't go to parties, they don't go to social events because they're embarrassed of how they look. We already know that because of the lack of confidence and all the emotions we said they feel. They definitely don't wear the clothes that they want to wear from before that they used to fit into. They don't go out and buy new clothes because they constantly say that they want to improve their body, so they don't want to commit to the current body they've got, but then they're not getting new clothes, so they're feeling dirty, they're wearing all these old clothes all the time. There's just so many effects that come from doing this. They definitely don't want to go on holidays, they don't want to go to spa treatments, they don't want to go to holidays away, they don't want to have nights out with their partner because when they come back to being intimate, they don't want to be intimate. So all these things are happening with the relationship and everything. It just affects every single area of your life you can possibly imagine. That it's leading to them not progressing in their work. They're not as focused. Maybe they're low on energy. So many things that you can keep reeling off. You understand this, right? But do you understand it though? Do you understand it for your business? Do you understand it for the problem that you are solving? Do you understand it for the service you're offering? You need to know these things inside out. You know, I can give examples from what we did when we were scaling our business to over 250 active clients, but can you do it for your business? We knew it inside out. We've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of content going in depth on every single little thing. But the last one is going to be the most important one, right? Because this is the really deep level, and this is what I mean by when we talk about the reason why on a call with someone that you're going to potentially work with, right? You can call it a sales call, discovery call, whatever you want to call it. When we talk about the reason why of why someone is going to do something, why are they going to make a change? Why are they investing in your service? What is the reason why? The deep reason why? These problems, the D here, the defined surface level problems, these are the tip of the iceberg, and we are getting right to the bottom of the iceberg here now. This is the biggest part that's going to have the biggest impact on whether they decide to work with you or not. So we need to know this, right? So when we talk about this is, I've heard people say this, but the pain point, right? And I'm not talking about the sleazy salespeople that tell you to stab a knife in someone and twist that knife with the pain points. I need you to figure this out on your own. First of all, you can do this from speaking to the clients that you work with. You can do this from using your own imagination when thinking through how these customers are feeling, why they actually work with you. But the pain points is simple, and the questions you need to ask yourself to get the answers is this. So you now have identified the surface level problems. You've gone deeper with the emotions of how that person feels, even how the business feels. You know, the people running the business, if it's a B2B offer, if it's a B2B service, you can do the same thing. You're still dealing with people and you're selling with people at the end of the day. Effects. So you now know the effects of how their actions are changing as a company, as a person, because of how they're feeling about their current situation. Now, the pain point, all you need to do is this. You need to simply ask yourself, if these actions continue because you don't fix this problem, you don't make a change, even if you say you're going to start next Monday, you're going to start next month, you're going to start when you come back from holiday, you're going to start when you get paid next month, whatever it is, when payday comes around. If you keep telling yourself those lies, or just tell them to paint the picture of, if this does not change, if you cannot solve this problem, how would you then feel? And it's back to emotion again. So we've gone emotion, logical, action, back to emotion. How would you then feel? And this is where they actually really pour out the pain of what that would mean. That would mean that they are a failure. Okay, they are going to feel like a failure all the time because they have not solved this problem. They've been telling themselves for the last 5, 10, 15 years, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix this. You have not. You've failed, right? I know it sounds harsh, but it's the truth. If that problem was to elongate and they were not able to solve that problem, they were a failure. They would never achieve that success again. They would never be able to be truly happy and content being intimate with their partner again. They would never have that feeling again where you walk into a room and people don't just look around at you because you stand out, maybe because you were a beast before, but now because they look up to you and think, wow, that is someone's business card walking in with pride because they represent who they are. You cannot buy a body that looks in great shape. You simply can't. And that's why it gains respect from everyone, because you know you've only earned it with respect and discipline, which speaks levels about who you are as a person, right? Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of vain people out there that they do it because yes, they may be disciplined, you can call it that if you want, but if they truly love it, I don't think that's discipline. They're doing it because they love it and they're vain and they want to show off. But different types of people, right? Very small minority actually, but most people, it shows discipline because most of the time they go into the gym when they don't really want to. Sometimes they're sticking to their diet when they're tempted, sometimes when they're hungry, sometimes there's lots that says about someone. Okay, they are never going to achieve those things. That's what you're basically saying. Now you could go further. With some people I've worked with before, genuinely were experiencing heart problems. They were experiencing high blood pressure. They were unhealthy. They were going to have years shaved off their life. They were no longer going to be able to see their daughter's 18th birthday because they made decisions. They ate extremely poor. They didn't go to the gym. Their fault. They are going to die young because of that. How does that make them feel? That's the pain points that they are experiencing because they did not fix the problem. You need to identify what this means for your service. For example, we run a software company called Social Proof. Social Proof page, it helps businesses, service-based businesses, convert more of their viewers that they've got, the traffic, as they click the link, into more leads. They get more hot leads. If they do not use that, what is the pain point? The pain point is that they don't grow at the rate that they could have. They don't hit the numbers that they could have. They don't make as much profit as they could have because they're using tools that convert much lower. How long are they willing to go on with that pain for? Where they don't get as many leads as they want to, as they feel like they deserve. They're putting all this effort into content, paid ads, wasting loads of money. It's not converting like it should. So whatever offer you've got, if it's a service offer like that to a business, if it's an offer to a consumer, where you understand exactly what the pain is that this is solving for, that it makes it a no-brainer. Once you bring that to the surface, you identify the bottom of the iceberg, you bring it to the surface, and they realize this is actually what I'm basically deciding. If I say no to working with this person to not solve this problem because of whatever reason they think of at the time, that is what they're saying yes to. They're saying yes to potentially living with that pain. Is that trade-off worth it for them? So That's what you need to think about for your business. If you cannot identify this, each level, for your business, your service, your offer right now, it means you don't know your business as well as you think you do. It also means that your content is not going to hit as well as it could. It means that you're not relating to your customer as well as it could. That's the reality. So 2 ways you solve this. You either go through this yourself and you brainstorm and you figure these things out in depth, or you speak to your customers. You speak to the people you think would be your customers. If you don't have any customers already or enough, you speak to them. You ask them these things. That's all you need to do. So it is as simple as that. It's the boring stuff that works. It's the hard stuff that people don't want to do because it's boring, and you need to be consistent with finding these boring things and doing them if you're going to be successful in business. So hopefully this helps. This channel is all about helping service businesses grow. We run service businesses ourselves still actively. We're trying to scale a new company as well with Social Proof. So we're doing this with you. We're documenting the journey. I'm putting out the things I'm doing myself. These are things I am doing myself. I wouldn't tell you to do something we wouldn't do ourselves. So hopefully this helps. Subscribe if you do like this type of stuff and you're growing a service business as well. And thank you. I will see you soon.